Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy and I'm so happy you're here. If this is your first time stopping by, welcome, and I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below as well as the little bell right next to it so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. If you like these projects, don't forget to give them a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think, and now, without further ado, let's get started. For our first project, we're going to be using a wooden sign from the Dollar Tree, and this is one of the smaller ones, not the real thick, long ones. A Christmas tag, this is just kind of a medium-sized one. And then I was so excited to find this plastic little bin, and of course it's with all of the other bins, but it's longer and it's a basket weave and I love it. And then I found this little LED desk light, and it gives off the softest, prettiest glow when you turn this on, so it's going to be perfect for our project. And again, all of these items can be found at the Dollar Tree. And so the first thing I'm going to do is get all of the metal embellishments off of the top of my sign, and I'm using my Cricut spatula to do that. And this comes in handy with a lot of things, such as taking the tags off of my wooden signs. So after I get everything ready, I'm going to have Michael J take it outside and cut this lengthwise so that it's two skinny long pieces, and then he'll cut that in half so that I have a total of 4 pieces, and those are going to serve as my legs for my little manger. And so the measuring guru has to make sure that it's exactly perfect, which is a good thing, but it takes a little bit of time to get it exactly right. And so he'll take his miter saw and cut that down, and then once he gets the 4 pieces, he'll take 2 of the pieces and put those crisscross, and then take a screw and screw that down in the middle. And then I'll be able to adjust it so that it fits perfectly under my basket and is nice and flat. And then once I figure out where that's going to be, he'll cut it straight across so that it has a flat top that the basket will rest on. So now that I have my legs cut out, I'm going to put it on a flat surface and make sure I have them adjusted to where they need to be, because when I paint them, if I move them, then you'll see the wood from underneath. You could paint these beforehand and just not have to worry about that part, but I like to paint everything after it's all put together so that it doesn't get all dirty and icky from being outside and on the saw. So after I get my legs painted, I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in crimson, and I'm going to paint my tag both on the front and the back. And then I'm going to take some more of my white chalk paint and just give my plastic bucket a little bit of a matte finish so that it matches my legs and it's not so shiny and plasticky looking. And I'll do that a little bit on the inside as well. It ends up not really showing too much, but I just want to give it a uniform and finished look so that it's complete all the way around. So now I'm going to take my Silhouette Cameo 3 and I'm going to cut out the words "True Love was born in a manger." And the fonts I used were "True Love" and "Manger" are in Stillness, and then "Was Born in A" is called "Look Within." And you can find those fonts on thehungryjpeg.com, but I'll also have them listed in the description box below, and of course I'll have it listed in my Etsy shop as well. But if you do have a cutting machine, I'm using my Frisco Craft matte white adhesive vinyl as well as their transfer tape. So I'll also have a coupon code for you in the description box. So now I'm going to use my Waverly chalk paint in ink, and I'm just going to give it some brushing against the edges and a little bit on the surfaces so that it looks like it's been sanded and kind of weathered. But I did wait until the white was dry so that it wasn't completely blended. And then to knock down that black after that's dry, I'm going to take my white again and get that dry brushed over so that it's a little bit softer. And then I'm going to do the same thing on my basket weave just so that it looks sanded and super cutie patootie. So now while I'm waiting for that paint to completely dry, I'm going to take my ink and I'll go along the edges of my tag just to give it some shadows and a distressed edge. So now I'm going to make a perky bow for the side of my manger, and I end up not using this one because it was a little too big and I wanted more of the manger to show, but I'll show you how I made it. So I'm just going to twist at the end of my ribbon, and then every time I go back between my forefinger and my thumb, I'm going to grab it and twist it, and I'll pinch it between my fingers, and then I'm doing 3 loops on each side, and I'm making each loop a teeny bit larger than the one before it. And then I'll take a chenille stem and pass it through the middle loop, which I'm going to fold over on top of itself, and then I'll twist it in the back and dovetail the edges. But like I said, I am going to be using a smaller bow, and I'll use the small gingham 5/8 inch ribbon from the Dollar Tree instead, so that I can see more of that basket weave. And then I'm going to take my tag and I'll use some baker's twine to tie it at the top. I end up getting rid of the little bow at the top of that as well, because you guys know I always change my mind. But I'm going to make a little hole in through that plastic using my pokey tool that I got from the Dollar Tree. And then I'll use my big fat nail to make the hole a little bit larger, and then pass my baker's twine through there and tie my tag to the top left of my basket. So now before I add the greenery to the side of my basket, I'm going to put my legs on, and I'm using some Gorilla Glue in the middle, and then I'll surround it with my hot glue so that I get an instant hold right away, and then I just place those flat onto the bottom of the basket. And then I'll turn it over and shoot some staples into the top, going through the plastic and into the wood. And I give those about 3 staples for each of those legs. And then I'll take a Christmas greenery pick and use my baker's twine to tie that into place, and then a little bit of paddle wire to just make it even more secure. And then I'll put some more greens in through the side just to make it as big and fluffy as I want. And here it is all finished, and I love so much how this turned out, and I love the message and what it stands for at Christmas, not to mention that it is so extremely cute. I can't even handle it. But when I was taping this, I actually got teary-eyed because it's just so sweet and precious. I love the smaller bow on it because it shows more of that basket, and I took that little desk lamp and put it inside of the basket along with my Bible, and then a $5 Target Dollar Spot tree and then covered it up with a microfiber dust mop from the Dollar Tree. And so at night it has the most beautiful glow. But I love so much how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. For our next project, we're going to be using 4 of these 12 by 12 frames that are also from Dollar Tree, as well as some Christmas picks, some ribbon, jute twine, and some buffalo check wrapping paper, which I was so excited to find at Dollar Tree. And then from burlapfabric.com, I have some 12 by 12 burlap fabric squares. These are only $1.99 a sheet, so I will have those listed in the description box below. I was going to use their striped ribbon too, which is so super cute, but I end up using some Dollar Tree ribbon that I'll show you in just a second. So the first thing I'm going to do is take out all of the insides of my frame, and I'm using that as a template because these sheets are a little bit more than 12 inches. They're actually about 13 inches square, so I end up having to cut them down a little bit just to make them fit inside of the frame. And then I'm going to use my hot glue to get those all stable inside, and I put the mat and then the paper that comes inside of the frame down first, and then put the burlap on top of that. So now I'm going to take my wrapping paper and I'm just cutting it down into 4 different squares, and I'm going to use my Silhouette Cameo 3 to cut out the letters Noel. And I'm using my light grip cutting mat because this wrapping paper is pretty thin, and then I used a force of 10 and a speed of 3 just so that it wouldn't rip while it was cutting. If you don't have a cutter, you could just print out these letters from your computer and then use that as a template to cut out your wrapping paper. So the way this is going to work is the glass will actually keep the wrapping paper down, but because it kind of curls up from being on a tube, I used a little bit of the rolling adhesive that I got from Dollar Tree to keep them in place until I was able to put my glass on top. And then I'm going to put it all back into the frame, and I'll do that for each of my letters. So now I'm going to embellish one corner of each of my letters, and I'm using my Dollar Tree Christmas picks to do that. So I'll just tear them apart and then place them in the corner and glue them in place. And you do want to make sure that your N is upside right, because mine is upside down, which you may not have noticed, and I didn't notice until I'm actually editing this video, but just be mindful of that. I'm notorious for this. So then I'm just going to make a sweet little bow and put that right above the berries, and then on top of that I'll make a jute twine bow where I just wrap it around my fingers a few times, and I'll place that right on top. And then finally, to give our frames even more Christmas cuteness, I'm going to be using my Waverly chalk paint in white to get those greens all nice and snowied up so that they're soft and look way more realistic. And here's how it turned out, and I love this so much, and even with my upside down N, it's still gorgeous. You guys get the idea. Originally, I had seen on Pinterest where people were taking frames with the letters and they would place them on their shelves, one letter per shelf. And I had planned to do that, except I didn't realize I only have 3 shelves. So I didn't realize that until I went to show this. So these can be hung up because you have the hooks on the back, or you can lean them like I'm doing here. There's so many things you can do with this, but I love, love, love how it turned out. It's a nice substantial piece, and I hope you guys like it. For our next DIY, I'm going to be using this clear ornament, and last month some YouTube friends and I got together and did a collaboration video of how to use this ornament in 6 different ways. So I'm sure you'll recognize some of the other girls on here, and if you follow us on Instagram, you will have already seen this video, but in case you didn't, here it is. So that was super fun, and I love those girls. So to make our ornament, we're going to be using some tumbling tower blocks, and I just wanted to show you they have those large sizes now. One of the stars from these little Christmas stickers, a bistro chalk marker that I got from Walmart, some hay from the fall collection, our ornament, some mini pine cones, some black and white gingham ribbon, and then some black poster board for our little silhouettes. And then you can use any kind of tweezers that you have on hand, but I really like these because when you squeeze them, they open up, so when you let them go, they're nice and tight and hold on to our pieces that we're going to be putting inside of the ornaments. So I just wanted to show you that. So now what I'm going to do is figure out the shapes that I want for my silhouettes, and I'm going to cut those out of regular copy paper, and then I'll put that on top of my black poster board and cut those out. And I make sure to add a little tab at the bottom so that I have something to glue to my blocks. And I also forgot to show you guys the little blocks, the wood blocks that they have at Dollar Tree. And so it's like 1/3 of the size of the Jenga blocks. So because the ornament has a round bottom, I'm going to take a regular Jenga block and stick it inside and just let it sit there. And then I'll take one of the little blocks and attach my baby Jesus to that using some hot glue, and none of this will be showing because we're going to be covering it with the hay. So after I get my baby Jesus on there, I'm going to drop that in front of the long Jenga piece, and then I'm going to take Joseph and Mary and I'll hot glue those to a block as well. But I'm going to make sure that those fit on top of the long Jenga piece, and I'll hot glue those so that they stay put. So once all of my pieces are in place, I'm going to take my hay and feed it through a Dollar Tree funnel and make sure that it's high enough to cover all of the mechanism, but low enough so that you can still see the bottom part of my silhouettes. And then I'm going to take a few of the mini pine cones and place those inside, and I just used a pencil to move things around and get them perfectly in place where I wanted everything. So once I get everything in place on the inside of my ornament, I'm going to put the top back on, and then I'm going to make a sweet little bow with my 5/8 inch gingham ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just using 3 loops on each side, making it pretty small so it doesn't cover anything up. And then I'll dovetail the edges, and I'm going to hot glue those to the top of the ornament so that, again, they don't get in the way of my little silhouettes. And then I'm going to take one of the gold stars from the sticker packs and put that right in the middle. Then to hang it, I'm going to use a piece of jute twine and just tie that to the top and then make a knot above that so that it can hang on your tree. I actually forgot to record the part where I took my white bistro pen and I wrote on the front of the ornament, "Oh Holy Night," but I just wrote it in simple cursive in the white so that it would show up really well against the black. And here it is all finished, and I love it with the lights behind it. It's so sweet. Again, it captures the true meaning of Christmas. I think the hardest part of this whole process is just cutting out the little silhouettes and figuring out the shape that you want to make it. But I just went online and looked at some different silhouettes on Google Images and then just traced it out myself. But I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. For our final project, I have our Dollar Tree Trash to Treasure, and I found this lantern at the Goodwill and it was only $12. It's a little pricey, but I think it's pretty substantial and it was really well made and nice and sturdy. So I really liked all of the curves, and I want this for a porch piece, and so I'm gonna make this super cute and festive for the Christmas season using Dollar Tree products. So I'm going to be using 4 different types of ribbon, some Christmas picks and greenery, and 2 of the yard candy canes. And so we're going to be making a funky bow. I guess that's what everybody calls them, but I'm going to measure out 28-inch lengths of my 4 different types of ribbon. and I'll cut 3 strips of each of those different patterns. So you'll have a total of 12 strips altogether. And then once I get those cut out, I'll dovetail the ends of each of them. Every now and then I hear from viewers saying that they try making the bows the way I do, using the twisting method or the fold over method, and yet sometimes they just don't come out right. So I wanted to make a bow and show you guys how to do it that is super simple and will turn out whether you're a good bow maker or not. So once we get the pieces all cut out, I'm going to fold it over in half, and then I'm going to measure down 5.5 inches and just pinch that, and then I'll hold it in my hand, and I'm going to twist the back part of my tail so that both pieces are showing the pattern if it's not double-sided ribbon. So my green and my burlap are technically double-sided because it doesn't have a pattern, so you don't have to do that on those 2 colors. And all of these ribbons are from Dollar Tree, and we're in the Christmas section. So hopefully you can find some of this black and red buffalo check or gingham. So when I'm putting it in my hand, I'm going to put the loops all in one direction, and I'll alternate the patterns so that I have one of each of those 4 going in the same direction. And then on my next set, I'm going to go in that same alternating pattern, but I'm going to turn them upside down. So the tails will be facing where the loops are on that first set, if that makes sense. And I'm going to do that a 3rd time. And so I'll have one big, huge handful of loops and tails. And then I'm going to take my chenille stem and pass that all the way around and twist it in the back nice and tight. And then the fun part comes when you start foofing your loops, because it's going to turn into this big, gorgeous, beautiful, perky bow. So once I have my bow portion all done, and I promise you guys cannot mess this up, I'm going to take some extra ribbons and I'm just going to let those hang down. And they have some nice curly cues on them already. Since we're going to be putting this on the lantern, I want some hanging down. So I'm going to dovetail the ends of these ribbons and attach it using the extra chenille stem that's already on the back of my bow. And then that's going to give it some super cute hanging pieces that will just kind of curly cue down at the bottom. So now I'm going to attach this to my lantern, and then I'm going to take some of my greenery and some Christmas picks and just tuck those in under my bow and just use my chenille stem or paddle wire or whatever I can find to grab onto that and attach it to the lantern. Then I'm going to take my 2 candy canes and I just crisscrossed those and then used a piece of scrap ribbon to attach those to the base of my lantern. And then I took some nylon zip ties and attached those to make sure that they would not move. And then I'm going to use some greenery to wrap around it and cover that all up. And then I'll take some of the coordinating ribbon and just make a sweet little bow, add some pine cones and berries. And then I always love to use my chalk paint to snowy up that greenery so that it looks nice and wintry. Then I'm going to take another buffalo check ribbon and make a perky bow for the top, and then I'll take some more Christmas greenery and tuck that in there and wrap it around. And then my chenille stem that I used on that perky bow, I'm going to have extras underneath. So I found a little red glass lantern that already had the handle on it. This is also from Dollar Tree. So I'm going to attach that to that chenille stem and let that hang down into the lantern. So then I'm going to take some of my spray adhesive from Dollar Tree, and I'll take some of the glittery snow that they also have, spray a whole bunch at the base of my lantern, and then sprinkle that all over so that it looks like there's snow inside there. And then I have this little poinsettia tea light that I'm going to place inside of the lantern to give it a little bit of Christmas light. And then just to finish it off, I took a little bit of the Dollar Tree candy cane ribbon and added some loops into that top bow and then around my candy cane on one side, and then it was done. And here it is, all finished and in the daylight, and I think this is so pretty and so very Christmassy, and I'm telling you, this bow is one of the easiest bows ever, and I know it will work whether you're using it on a wreath or on something like this. You can use this funky bow anywhere, and it's going to be all perky and full and super cutie patootie. This also goes to show that you can find thrifted items or something you might already have in the garage that you're not using but know you like it, and you can upcycle it and turn it into something beautiful. But I love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. I hope you enjoyed all of these projects, and if you did, don't forget to give them a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think. If you're not already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below, as well as the little bell right next to it, so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. I hope everyone has a blessed day. Remember the reason for the season, and remember to always be the light. Bye!